The endless waves of Bluehaven rolled gently onto the pristine shore, their rhythmic crashes forming a melody only the ocean could compose. In the heart of this peaceful coastal town, Eva Sinclair, a young illustrator, darted through the cobbled streets, her worn canvas bag bouncing against her hip with every hurried step. Her sneakers, frayed and barely holding together, weren't her biggest concern at the moment. Somewhere in the depths of her bag, her phone buzzed with a message from her father, Henry Sinclair, a wood sculptor with an unshakable passion for art and a dangerous tendency to rack up debt. Eva burst into the wooden workshop, the scent of pine shavings and sawdust wrapping around her like an old familiar embrace. Henry stood there, grinning ear to ear, a cheap bottle of wine clutched in his hand as if he had just struck gold. "Eva, I have great news." She froze, heart tightening instinctively. Experience had taught her that Henry Sinclair's great news was never actually great. "You didn't invest in another groundbreaking wood project, did you?" She crossed her arms, suspicion lacing her voice. Henry laughed, clapping a hand on her shoulder with unshakable enthusiasm. "No, no, no. This time it's genius. I've figured out a way to clear my biggest debt." Eva narrowed her eyes. "How?" His grin widened. Lifting the bottle as if to toast himself, he declared, brimming with pride. "Marriage, Eva. I've promised you to Liam Carter, Bluehaven's famous travel photographer." The world around her seemed to freeze for a second. Her heart skipped a beat, her mouth opened to protest, but no words came out. Surely this had to be a joke, right? Eva blinked, trying to process the words that had just come out of her father's mouth. But no matter how hard she tried, they refused to make sense. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice shooting up an octave as if someone had just told her the sky was actually purple. Henry clapped her on the shoulder again, still beaming. "I said I've arranged a marriage for you with Liam Carter. You know Liam Carter, the famous travel photographer, the one who takes all those breathtaking shots of Bluehaven that every magazine wants to feature. A man with talent, status, and most importantly, money." Eva's mouth fell open, then snapped shut again. She couldn't believe this. She had never met Liam Carter, only seen his work in glossy magazine spreads. She knew his photos, stunning sunsets over the cliffs, Bluehaven's moonlit shoreline, waves crashing against jagged rocks with an untamed beauty. But that didn't mean she wanted to marry him. "What have you done?" Eva hissed, feeling as if her head might explode. "You can't just promise me to a stranger because you're in debt." Henry scoffed, throwing up his hands like he couldn't understand why she was being so dramatic. "What are you talking about? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Liam is not just rich, he's respected. Think about it, Eva. You could leave that tiny apartment of yours, live in a beautiful beachfront home, and never have to worry about money again." Eva clenched her fists. "Never have to worry about money again? Do you think that's what I want? Do you think I want to be sold off like a piece of furniture?" Henry sighed, shaking his head as if she were a stubborn child refusing to see reason. "Eva, I'm doing this for you." Eva let out a hollow laugh. "For me? Or because you racked up another debt you can't pay?" Henry waved a dismissive hand, clearly uninterested in debating further. "Either way, it's taken care of. The wedding is already arranged, this afternoon on Bluehaven Beach." Eva froze. This afternoon. Not next week, not next month. This afternoon. Her mind spun as if someone had just tossed her into a storm with no warning. "You're insane," she breathed. Henry shrugged. "Call it what you want. Just make sure you're there on time." Eva stared at her father, then at the familiar walls of the woodshop, the place she had grown up in, the place that had always felt safe, but now it felt like a cage. No, she couldn't let this happen. She wouldn't let this happen. Eva didn't know what was worse, the fact that she was actually wearing a wedding dress or that she was about to marry a complete stranger. The white dress wasn't even hers. It had belonged to her mother, slightly too tight at the shoulders, with faint yellowed stains from age. Eva tugged at the fabric, trying to smooth it out, but nothing could make this situation feel any less ridiculous. She didn't want to get married, But every time she thought about the $20,000 debt hanging over her father's head, every time she remembered his smug, self-satisfied grin, she felt a strange hesitation. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a way out. And then, Liam Carter stepped out of his sleek silver Jeep, and every rational thought in her head promptly vanished. He looked annoyingly composed. Khaki pants, a crisp white linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and most importantly, a camera hanging around his neck, as if he had arrived to shoot a wedding, not be the groom. Eva folded her arms. "Are you sure you're here to marry me and not just shoot a documentary about this disaster?" Liam glanced at her, then at the gathered crowd of villagers, all watching with thinly disguised amusement. He sighed. Honestly, not entirely sure. The people of Bluehaven had turned out in full force, not to celebrate, but to witness what was bound to be the most ridiculous wedding of the year. Some held cans of beer, others munched on bags of chips, looking more like they were at an outdoor comedy show than a wedding ceremony. And then things got even worse. Henry, who had clearly been drinking since morning, climbed onto an old wooden crate, taking it upon himself to officiate the ceremony. He spread his arms dramatically, swaying slightly as he spoke. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Eva Sinclair and Liam, he paused, frowning deeply, then turned to Liam. "Wait, what's your last name again?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Liam pinched the bridge of his nose. "Carter, sir." Henry clapped his hands together. "Right, Liam Carter, let's continue then." Eva wished she could sink straight into the sand. But the real disaster happened during the ring exchange. Liam reached into his pocket to pull out the ring and promptly dropped it into the sand. A long silence followed. Then chaos erupted. Eva and Liam both dropped to their knees, frantically sifting through the grains while the villagers howled with laughter. An old man in the crowd shouted, "Well, at least they're already bowing to each other. Good start to a marriage." After what felt like an eternity, Eva finally fished the ring out. She held it up, narrowing her eyes at Liam. "If you drop it again, Liam smirked. "Fair enough." Then came the moment they had both been dreading. The kiss. Henry spread his arms. "Now seal this marriage with a kiss." Eva froze. Liam stiffened. And the villagers? They started chanting, "Kiss, kiss, kiss." Eva turned to Liam, who looked just as horrified as she felt. "Do we actually have to do this?" he muttered. "My dad just forgot your name. I don't think he'll let us skip it." But before either of them could come to a decision, Henry, in a drunken wave of enthusiasm, clapped Liam on the back. Hard. Liam stumbled forward, nearly crashing into Eva. Eva yelped, instinctively stepping back, only for her foot to catch on the hem of her dress, sending her toppling backward. Luckily, Liam caught her before she hit the sand. The villagers roared with laughter. Eva, face burning, shot a murderous glare at her father. "Are you trying to embarrass me to death?" Henry shrugged, just adding a little romance to the occasion. After the ceremony, if it could even be called that, Liam turned to Eva, his voice hesitant. "If you want, you can stay at my place for a while, at least until things calm down with your dad." Eva glanced at Henry, who was already pouring himself another drink, humming a tune as if he hadn't just ruined her life. She exhaled. "That actually sounds like a good idea." Eva had no idea why she agreed to this. Maybe it was because she didn't want to go home and face Henry, who would undoubtedly spend the entire evening gloating about his brilliant deal. Or maybe it was because she needed time to process everything. Either way, she now found herself standing in front of Liam Carter's apartment. It was smaller than she expected, but warm and lived in. White walls lined with bookshelves, wooden floors slightly worn from use, and large windows overlooking the endless ocean. The salty breeze drifted in, carrying the scent of pine and seawater. "Not terrible, right?" Liam said as he stepped inside. Eva huffed, dropping her bag onto the floor. "I expected someone like you to live in a luxury villa." Liam chuckled, heading toward the kitchen. "I could buy a villa, but I like it here." Eva had no idea how to respond to that, so she did the only thing she could. try to act normal in this completely abnormal situation. And that's when everything fell apart. The next morning, she decided to make breakfast to prove that she wasn't just an inconvenient houseguest. The result? 2 slices of burnt toast and a kitchen filled with smoke. Liam walked in, eyes widening like she had just set the entire apartment on fire. "What are you doing?" Eva, standing in the middle of the disaster, gave him a guilty look. "I tried." She placed the charred toast on a plate and slid it toward him. Next to it, she scribbled a note. "I tried." Liam stared at the note, then at her, and burst into laughter, nearly spilling his coffee. "Amazing, I'm keeping this." Disaster struck again that afternoon. Eva was sketching at the coffee table while Liam walked by with a glass of water. In a tragic turn of events, he tripped on the rug and the water spilled all over her artwork. Both of them froze. Eva stared at her ruined sketch. Liam stared at Eva. "Would you kill me if I said, 'I'm sorry'?" Liam asked cautiously. Eva sighed, picking up the wet paper, trying and failing to salvage it. "I'll think about it." But the worst was yet to come. One evening, as Liam was editing his photos, Eva accidentally knocked over an entire watercolor set, spilling bright streaks of paint all over his prints. She went rigid, staring at the damage. She expected him to snap, to get angry. Instead, Liam just tilted his head, examining the colorful mess like he was analyzing a modern art piece. Then, with complete seriousness, he said, "It kind of looks like abstract art." Eva's jaw dropped. "Are you kidding?" Liam shrugged. "I once dropped an entire camera into the ocean. Compared to that, this is nothing." Eva couldn't help but laugh, and in that moment she realized maybe living with Liam Carter wouldn't be so terrible after all. They were still clumsy, they still drove each other crazy, but somehow these ridiculous little moments were bringing them closer together. Eva never thought she would get used to living with Liam Carter, yet somehow she had. Mornings filled with smoke from burnt toast, afternoons spent with her painting and Liam editing his photos, sometimes accidentally turning them into abstract art with spilled watercolor. Instead of getting angry, Liam would just chuckle and say, "Maybe I should start an exhibition." Then one day, Eva decided to do something she had dreamed of for a long time, selling her paintings at the local market. Liam wasn't just supportive, he actively helped her promote them online. "You're really good, Eva," he said, snapping a photo of her artwork. "The world just hasn't seen it yet." Eva smiled, and for some reason, hearing him say that made her feel warm. But it was a rainstorm that truly changed things. That day, she was sitting on a bench by the beach, sketching the waves crashing against the cliffs. She was so focused, she didn't notice how dark the sky had turned. Thunder rumbled, and within seconds, the rain poured down. Eva gasped, scrambling to gather her papers, but the ink had already started to run. She sighed, ready to accept her fate, when suddenly, a large umbrella appeared over her head. She looked up. Liam was standing there, hair slightly damp, gripping the umbrella firmly to shield her from the downpour. "You seriously didn't notice the storm coming?" he asked, half scolding, half exasperated. Eva blinked, surprised that he had actually run all the way here just to cover her with an umbrella. And then, in his flustered state, Liam blurted out, "I don't want my wife catching a cold." 1 second, 2 seconds. Then, both of them froze. Liam's face turned beet red. His mouth opened as if to correct himself, but no words came out. Eva had no idea how to react. She should have laughed at him, teased him mercilessly, but instead, she smiled. Not in mockery, not in sarcasm, just a genuine, amused smile. From a distance, a few villagers had witnessed the entire scene. And of course, they didn't let it slide. "Look at that, what a caring husband," an old lady giggled. "Bluehaven's accidental couple," someone else shouted. Eva turned to Liam, watching as he shut his eyes like he was praying for the rain to wash him away. And that's when she realized she didn't hate Liam Carter anymore. In fact, the idea of him leaving Bluehaven made her chest tighten in a way she didn't quite understand yet. Everything between Eva and Liam had started to change. They were no longer just two strangers bound by a ridiculous agreement. They had fallen into a rhythm. Mornings filled with burnt toast, afternoons spent arguing about art, and nights sitting by the window in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. Eva thought maybe this was how things would stay. She never expected everything to fall apart in a single day. Henry showed up one sunny afternoon, barging into Liam's apartment without knocking. As always, he had a bottle of cheap wine in hand, but this time there was something unsettlingly serious in his eyes. "Eva," he said, planting his hands firmly on the table, "I've thought it over. I want to cancel the agreement." Eva frowned. "Cancel the agreement?" Henry nodded, as if this was a simple matter. "You can't stay here forever. The woodshop is falling apart, and I need you to come back and help me rebuild it." Eva couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had spent her entire childhood helping her father with his craft. She had watched him make bad financial decisions, one after another, digging them deeper into trouble. And now, just when she had finally carved out a life of her own, he wanted to pull her back in? She was about to refuse outright until Liam spoke first. "If you want to leave," Liam said, forcing the words out, "then I won't stop you." Eva snapped her head toward him. "What?" Liam didn't look at her. He stared down at his hands, his jaw tight, his voice controlled. "I don't want you to feel like you have to stay." His words hit her like a punch to the chest. Did he really think she wanted to leave? Anger surged inside her, not at Henry, at Liam, at how easily he was willing to let her go, as if everything between them meant nothing. "So, you want me to leave?" Her voice came out small, almost breaking. Liam inhaled deeply, then turned away. He walked into the bedroom, and a few moments later he came out with a suitcase. Eva froze. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded. Liam didn't answer. He just kept packing, his movements slow but deliberate. "If you leave, I'll leave too," he said finally. "I only came to Bluehaven because of this deal. If it's over, there's no reason for me to stay." Each word felt like a knife to her heart. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him this wasn't just a deal anymore, that she didn't want to lose him. But she couldn't speak. Liam zipped up his suitcase. He hesitated for just a second, then walked to the door. Eva sat frozen. Was this really the end? Then she looked out the window. The rain had started to fall. And suddenly she knew exactly what she had to do. Without thinking, she bolted out the door, not caring that the rain instantly soaked through her hair and clothes. She ran as fast as she could, feet slipping on the wet cobblestones, pushing past the market stalls, her breath coming in short gasps. When she reached the beach, Liam was standing there, suitcase at his feet, about to leave. "Elam Carter!" she screamed through the rain, her voice cutting through the crashing waves. Liam froze, then slowly turned. His eyes widened. Eva stood there, panting, rain mixing with the tears she no longer tried to hold back. She looked straight into his eyes and said, her voice shaking but unwavering, "I don't want freedom if it means losing you." Liam stared at her, his expression unreadable. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then, without hesitation, he closed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms. Eva clung to him, gripping his soaked shirt like she was afraid he would disappear. "I love you too," Liam whispered. "I don't know when it happened, but I know I don't want to leave you." Eva laughed through her tears, her fingers tightening around him. "Then don't." Liam cupped her face, and right there in the middle of the storm, they kissed for the first time. Not because of an agreement, not because of a debt, but because it was the only thing that felt right. The rain kept falling, the waves kept crashing, but Eva didn't feel cold anymore. She finally knew where she belonged,